Funding for the federal government has run dry after lawmakers failed to make a deal.
They want to give health care to illegal immigrants, which will destroy health care for everybody else in our country.
Plus, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth gives a blunt message to the military's top brass.
If the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign.
I'm Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley with Georgia Howe. It's Wednesday, October 1st, and this is Morning Wire.
This is something Democrats have wanted for 20 years. Republicans have wanted for 20 years. Everybody said they're going to do it. Nobody has even taken a step towards doing it.
President Trump may have a cure for America's skyrocketing drug prices. TrumpRX. How much of a reduction could people see?
And Trump gives Hamas a deadline to agree to his 20-point peace plan or face the consequences.
We're just waiting for Hamas, and Hamas is either going to be doing it or not, and if it's not, it's going to be a very sad end.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
Hey guys, producer Brandon here. My dogs are crazy, literally. They're huskies. It's like I have a whole sled dog team in my living room. And they like human food, typically not dog food. But wanting the absolute best for my dogs, I switched over to Olly. They offer fresh, protein-packed meals made with real, human-grade ingredients, a win for my dog's health, and they offer 5 tasty recipes, all slow-cooked for top nutrition, a win for my dog's happiness. What really sets them apart is how they customize everything for your specific pup, from portion sizes based on your dog's needs to mess-free packaging that keeps your fridge from smelling like a kennel. One of my dogs, Hunter, used to wait around the dinner table, being a beggar, waiting to see what scraps he might score. No longer. He's absolutely stoked on Olly. Your dog's well-being starts with their food, and that's why Olly delivers fresh, human-grade food that your dog will love. Head over to olly.com/wire, tell them all about your dog, and use code WIRE to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on your first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's ollie.com/wire and enter code WIRE to get 60% off your first box.
A busy day for lawmakers yesterday as the time ticked away for a government shutdown, while President Trump and Secretary of War Hegseth held an unprecedented event.
Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce is here to talk about all that and more. Hey, Tim. So let's start with the most significant development in the last 24 hours. That's this budget battle on Capitol Hill. How were those final hours spent by lawmakers before the deadline?
Well, they haggled right up until the last minute. About a day before the deadline, the New York Times and Siena College came out with a new poll that had some mixed results, but it showed for sure that Americans don't really want a shutdown. It said that about 2/3 of Americans don't want Democrats to force a shutdown, but it also suggested that Republicans would probably share the blame with Democrats in the case of a shutdown. And now that appears to be the spot that Washington is now in. Republicans had on the table a clean bill to fund the government at current levels for about 7 weeks, roughly. But Democrats rejected that. Much of what they wanted focused on restoration of budget cuts that the Trump administration made originally to stop taxpayer funding from going to waste, fraud, and abuse. President Trump tried to bring Democrats to the table yesterday by reminding them that during a shutdown, he has pretty broad authority to reshape the government.
So the last person that wants to shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer interpreted that threat as Trump owning the shutdown. Here's Schumer reacting.
Democrats do not want a shutdown. We stand ready to work with Republicans to find a bipartisan compromise, and the ball's in their court. When he says he will do things, he is taking ownership.
Well, obviously, a lot of political implications, as you've highlighted, that we'll be tracking in the coming days. Now, down in Quantico, we had an unprecedented meeting hosted by Pete Hegseth. Trump was there, gave some major addresses. What did we hear from them?
Yeah, it was 2.5 hours of speeches. It was led off by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. His speech was basically reiterating the priorities he has pushed as War Secretary, cutting social engineering out of the military and restoring what he calls the warrior ethos to the military. Here he is on the first part of that.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before and will say again, we are done with that.
And to continue to build the military into what it should be, Hegseth offered a test to each military leader. Would you allow your own child to serve in the military as it's structured and run? Unless the answer to that is an unqualified yes, then there's more changes to be made. Here's Hegseth.
This means at the War Department, first and foremost, we must restore a ruthless, dispassionate, and common sense application of standards. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men.
All right, so that was Hegseth really throwing down the gauntlet there. Now, Trump also spoke. What did we hear from the president?
Yeah, the president's speech was more of a military-focused campaign-style speech. So it was a lot of Trump touting his successes in his first administration and his second, and a lot of bashing of Biden. He brought up that the military has crushed its recruiting goals under his administration and how the U.S. is leading China and Russia on military advances. He also offered this message to the assembled generals and admirals.
My message to you is very simple. I am with you. I support you. And as president, I have your backs 100%. You'll never see me even waver a little bit.
So a lot of warmth from the president toward the military.
Well, he came in promising to fortify the troops, and he's certainly focusing heavily on that. Tim, thanks for reporting.
Thanks for having me.
By the time the average person reaches 60, they've likely cycled through numerous fad diets, collectively losing and regaining several hundred pounds over the years. All that yo-yo dieting increases your risk of diabetes, liver problems, and heart issues. The truth is, most of us need more than willpower to break free from this pattern. That's where lean comes in. Unlike those expensive GLP-1 injections, lean is a non-prescription supplement created by doctors specifically for this problem. And the science behind it is rock solid. Lean tackles weight loss 3 ways that actually help you keep it off. It keeps your blood sugar steady, no more energy crashes sending you into a snack cabinet. It controls cravings and that constant hunger feeling. And it helps your body convert fat into energy instead of storing it. I say it all the time, I was skeptical, but I tried it anyway, and before I knew it, I was down a pant size and I was going to the Daily Wire kitchen way less. If you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, add lean to your diet and exercise lifestyle. Get 20% off when you enter code MorningWire at takelean.com. That's code MorningWire at takelean.com today.
President Trump has promised a new era of lower drug prices for Americans with the launch of TrumpRX and a historic deal with Pfizer.
Here with the details is Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo. So, Amanda, some really big announcements coming out of the White House yesterday regarding pharmaceuticals. First, tell us about TrumpRX. What is it and what can Americans expect?
Yeah, so TrumpRX, this is going to be a new government website that's going to allow Americans to directly purchase medications at discounted prices. And we're talking about reductions of up to 85% of the net price. And that's the price you're actually paying when all is said and done. Now, Pfizer, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical and biotechnology corporations in the world, they've agreed to set all their medications for Medicaid at most favored nation pricing. That means pricing that's comparable to or less than the cost of other developed nations' drug prices. Additionally, all new medications from Pfizer will be offered at these lower prices. And there's even more from Pfizer. They'll invest $70 billion in research and development and U.S. manufacturing by 2030. Trump has long said that he wants all of our drugs manufactured in the U.S. to, bring back jobs, but also as a national security interest.
So Pfizer is on board. That's obviously a huge get. But what about other pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah, Trump was directly asked about this on Monday when he made this announcement, and he indicated that more deals are forthcoming. He said he's offering incentives to boost that participation. But if a company refuses to comply, he said he'll use tariffs and other mechanisms to get these lower drug prices for Americans. Here's Trump.
Eli Lilly has been fantastic. We're making deals with all of them. And I said, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to tariff them. Nobody wants to play that game.
A little context here. Americans pay on average about 422% more for brand name drugs than other comparable nations. Trump said months ago that this is a form of global freeloading. It's where Americans basically foot the bill for all research and development costs that turn out most medical advances that benefit everybody. That's why he launched these most favored nation policies, so that R&D costs will be distributed to other developed nations as well, nations like France, Germany, and the UK. The goal is that this is going to lower drug prices for Americans while these companies maintain their margins so that R&D funding and medical advances don't suffer. Here's more from the president.
For many years, Americans have paid the highest prices anywhere in the world for prescription drugs. They paid far more, 10 times, 13 times, 15 times more than other countries for the exact same product. A major reason is that the American consumers have been subsidizing research and development costs for the entire planet. They put all of that on us, and yet they were the beneficiaries too. So it's being changed as of today. The United States had just 4% of the world's population and consumers, only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the United States.
One last note on R&D. As I mentioned, Pfizer, as part of this deal, they're pouring billions of dollars into research and development, and they specifically set a goal of delivering 8 cancer breakthroughs by 2030.
Now, Democrats have long taken aim at pharmaceutical companies for their prices. What are they saying about this?
So they're generally sidestepping this or dismissing it. One example of this is far-left Senator Bernie Sanders, who consistently rails against pharmaceutical companies. He said that other nations in Europe or Canada, they should actually not be paying more to offset these costs. Instead, he says that pharmaceutical companies need to cut their margins.
Amanda, thanks for reporting.
You're welcome.
President Trump presented what could be a game-changing Gaza peace deal this week, which Israel has already agreed to. Now, President Trump has given Hamas a deadline to sign on or face a, quote, very sad end.
Here to discuss is national security and foreign policy expert Victoria Coates of the Heritage Foundation. Victoria, thanks for joining us.
Of course. Glad to be here.
So first, we have this new 20-point plan from the president. What are the key clauses that pose likely sticking points for this deal to go through?
Well, the key clause is probably the first one, which says that Hamas has to disarm and agree to this plan. But unlike the Peace to Prosperity plan that the president unveiled with Prime Minister Netanyahu in January of 2020, this one is being overtly and aggressively supported by partners in the Middle East. So we have countries like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, UAE, but also large Muslim majority countries like Pakistan, Indonesia, putting out statements saying, yes, this is the way, this is the plan, this is a good faith effort. And so it all comes down to Hamas. Israel has accepted, the rest of the region has accepted, and the question is whether Hamas will accept.
Now, Trump has started the clock for Hamas to respond. He gave them 3 or 4 days. The Palestinian Authority has voiced support for this deal, as I understand it. How much will that influence Hamas?
I also think that's very important. Mahmoud Abbas came out and said he was happy that this had happened, that he wanted to look at it, but that he thought it was a productive step. That is 180 degrees from where he was 5 years ago, where he wouldn't even look at the Peace to Prosperity plan. Now, I think this is a legitimate path forward. There is very strong reforms for the Palestinian Authority in there that they have to undertake before they get any kind of governing responsibility in Gaza. So they're going to have a lot of work in front of them as well. And for him to be hopeful about it suggests that maybe more broadly among the Palestinian people, there is support for this kind of resolution.
How will the IDF siege on Gaza City likely affect Hamas's response, if at all?
Well, it all depends on what condition Hamas finds itself in today. And so if they are really down to sort of last fighters, if they are out of rockets, we haven't heard much about that recently. If they had funding cut by the Iranians due to their problems and their lack of support from Hezbollah in Lebanon, they may be looking for survival. And this does give them that path. It says that if you wish to disarm and embrace a life of amnesty, that you can stay. And if you wish to leave, you will be given safe passage to third countries. So they may see this as their last ticket out. And at the same time, they may be facing a situation where there are fewer and fewer living hostages for them to bargain with.
Right. And where do we stand now with the hostage situation?
We think there are about 4 dozen of them still in there. 20, we pray, are still alive. And that is one of the critical provisions of this agreement, which is that they all come out within 72 hours of Hamas saying yes to this. So it can't be dribs and drabs. It can't have the kind of theater that we've seen around the release of these hostages. And only then, and that's a really important point, that only when all of the hostages are out will Israel start releasing any Palestinians. So this is a burden on Hamas rather than Israel has to release thousands and thousands of people and we get one guy back. No, this is the reverse.
And to make clear, so this deal requires action from Hamas. It can't just be statements of support for this deal that don't actually show any follow-through.
Yes, and also important, the timeline here. This happens very gradually. So there are going to be benchmarks Hamas has to meet repeatedly throughout this process, or else Israel goes right back in. And the president expressed full-throated support for Israel's right, if Hamas does not keep their side of the bargain, to do what they have to do to secure the Strip. Now, that's not going to be pretty. Prime Minister Netanyahu called it the hard way. He said he would much rather do it the easy way. I think we all would. And especially for the Palestinians living there, this is the way for them to get to a more secure and prosperous future. President Trump believes in that. He wants it to happen. And he's the one who can lead the way there.
Well, he's certainly shown that he can get some deals done that many people don't think are possible. Let's hope he can get this one done as well. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for waking up with us. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We'll be back later this evening with more news you need to know.